Hi there, this is Kathy Hay, and I'll be your presenter today. I am going to talk to you about hosting a STEM Day, and this is for AEAs on Air, presented Friday, December 13th from 8:30 to 9 a.m. STEM. You hear about it in the news more and more. Science, technology, engineering, and math. A STEM Day. What would that entail? Hopefully by the end of the presentation, you will be excited and ready to set up your own STEM Day. The first thing is you need to think about the purpose of a STEM Day. We know what STEM is. We want to get students more involved in STEM activities. So we looked at actually 7 items when we were just getting started thinking about this. And when I use the word we, I'm talking about the tech team at Keystone in Elkader. We are a team and we worked as a team. The idea kind of started last spring, the spring of 2013, and we set aside some dates in the Keystone calendar, one for Elkader in the fall and one for Dubuque in the fall, and then we have a follow-up day, which I'll talk about later. Anyway, as we were looking at our purpose, we really want to get students involved. We knew that the more STEM they had in their background, the more their opportunities were when they leave school. We also thought we could get them excited and engage them in some collaboration and problem solving at the same time. We chose our STEMers carefully. We knew we wanted to reach an enthusiastic audience the first time, so we chose middle schoolers from 5th through 8th grade. You can choose level groups for your STEMers. You can actually go building wide. The hour of code that was just supported by code.org this week of October 9th through 15th was really targeted through K through 12. So you could actually do that. You could just do a single group, such as 7th graders or 5th graders, if you wanted. Some schools, you might want to look at your after-school program, and then also at community groups or clubs that might be interested as well. Once you have chosen the group that you are thinking about, you want to take time to choose a theme. For the ones that the tech team, worked on and hosted here in Elkader, we chose gaming. We knew students were very excited about gaming anyway. Most of them were gamers of some sort. And so that's how we got our theme. And from that theme of gaming, we actually looked at the elements of gaming and also video games, how they're the same and different as board games. By doing this, then, each of the activities that we chose went to that theme. So every activity we chose could be related to gaming in some way, which kept student focus then. It also gave us a place to start when we were preparing, when we were giving teachers some items to look at before they came, and also what they could do with students after they left, because we stayed within this theme. When we chose our activities, and I'll talk more about those activities in a little bit, we really talked about how important it was that this be hands-on, student-centered, and that students would really take ownership in the day. So when we talked to our presenters, we asked that out of our 50-minute stations, and we had 3 of those throughout the day, they spend 5 to 10 minutes, tell a little bit about themselves and why they had this job, because that did tie into the career aspect, and then spend 9/10 of the time with students actually working. That meant the students were engaged from 45 to 40 minutes each discovery station, and they really liked that. We also really tried to keep it student-centered so that when students had questions, like they didn't know how to do something, we questioned them. Well, what is it that you really want to do? How do you think you might make that happen? And then we also talked about making sure that we asked the other students. So we would say, hey, we have a student here who has a question about, how do you get your character to rotate? Did anybody do that yet? And then they ended up helping each other quite a bit more. So we really became facilitators and kept it student-centered. The teachers who came along with students, and the students were in teams of 5, and we did require mixed gender. One of the things in gaming and coding right now that gender is an issue. There are a few females versus males, so the teams had to be mixed gender, and we just wanted the teachers to learn along with the students. They didn't have to do anything except come and help manage student behavior, which we didn't have problems with because they were engaged anyway. Also, all of the activities are supported by the core through technology literacy, and we made sure that that was a part of it. We had a couple student presenters for the Blender program, which I'll tell you a little bit about more later, and we had some experts from, we actually had some experts from a company that makes apps, and we also had an expert from a company that has created game making curriculum. Once you have your activities set up, you know who your gamers are going to be, you just need to set your time and set the stage. You want to do some advertising. We sent out e-lines to tech coaches and mentors and all general teachers in the 5th through 8th grade. You may want to do posters if you're doing it within your school. You can actually have a student team of planners, your student council, or maybe you have some students that are kind of into that might want to help set up the day. And then you can introduce and find a way to introduce what your theme is. We used a lot of the resources from code.org, and that is based on the gaming and coding part. And if you decide that you would like to kind of follow that theme, then I've linked here. This is to the main resource page, and then there's two insets or sub-pages. One's with videos from famous people talking about coding, and there's also some blurbs and useful stats that you might want to share even with the community. It's also important that you invite the press to come. Many school districts have local newspapers that like to highlight school things anyway. Your students could put announcements on the radio or even have a live radio feed from there that day so that they could be interviewing students as they come by from stations or even going in and sharing some of the things that they're hearing. Then once you have the stage set, you've got your theme, you know your purpose in the group, it's time to just get your STEM day started. It's really important to set up early because you will be using technology. If you're doing science, you'll be setting up experiments. Ours used a lot of computers. We had to have some things downloaded ahead of time, so we really did get started early. We really relied on custodians and secretaries to help with some of the extra things, registration, setting up tables and chairs. Now the third item here, talk time, that's making sure that somewhere in your day, or even if you're doing an hour, you have time for students to talk to each other about what they've learned, about what they're excited about, want to learn more about. We had a photographer actually taking pictures and creating a video afterwards that we shared online at our Keystone AEA site. But what great PR if you have a school site and you want to put it up for your on your school webpage. Teachers might have newsletters they send home with a link to that video. So that's an important part of the day. We also included in our STEM day a discovery station that was for collaboration. We called it our makerspace. And throughout the day, if students were working on a software program and they didn't really want to quit, they could go to that makerspace, keep working, work with other students. We had a few utilize it. Most students wanted to go learn something else because out of the day and activities, we had 8 discovery stations, and I will share those. Students were in teams of 5, and so we tried to get the teams to split up. So students only got to go to 3 out of the 8 stations, discovery stations, and so not many of them chose just to go to the makerspace at that time. We also thought it was important to do a follow-up, and so we have planned a day in the spring so that students will have time to have worked on these game items that they learned about, come back and share. And when we did the exit survey, we found that they were really interested in how do you get to this career? What do I have to do in high school? What kind of college classes should I take? Where are the colleges that teach me to do this? And so that has given us a focus for our spring date. We're going to be looking at careers. We're still going to have hands-on, but we're going to spend maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes talking about courses and how do you get into them and what you should be doing in college. So those exit surveys were very, very important for us. That's information on just the steps of setting up your STEM day. I'm actually going to take you now to the sample one that we had here to give you a better idea, and you're sure welcome to use this presentation. Please just make a copy of it so that you can go from there and you're not writing on it. And these links are right here. I'm going to go first to the agenda link today. And there's also a tiny URL that you can go to. So we started out for an hour, and we did have 15 teams of 5 students in Elkader, and we had 22 teams, I believe, or 24 of 5 students. So we had a lot of students there in the 100s. And we did start with large group activities. The rock, paper, scissors activity, I've shared with you, and that information is all there, how to do that. And we actually had each team changed a component, and they drew them. We had a card, and they drew the card, and then that's the component their team changed. And then we gave them, I believe it was about 7 minutes to meet with another team that changed a different component and do a discussion. The game elements activity, we actually watched a video of an introduction to a game. It's on the Wii U Infinity. It's a Disney game. And then we had them to have a discussion about what are some of the things that video games had in common. And you'll see in the presentation slides, they came up with all of them. And that was the characters, the world, the special effects, the music, and then the storyline. From there, we introduced the discovery stations, and I'm going to go through those. You're welcome to use these. You may have some that you would like on your own. But again, the discovery stations all linked to the theme, which was gaming. The first one, we actually looked at the Sphero robot because a lot of times gamers use robots in games, so it's a good thing to know how to program them and see how they move. And we also used a program called Inkle Writer, and you'll see that those links are right here. And that one is how to write your video game and have it make sense, because they did talk about that in their discussion. The really good video games have a good story. We had a station, Discovery Station 2 was Blender, which is a 3D modeling program, and this is where we had student presenters. 3D modeling is used in video games now all the time. You don't have flat characters like the Paper Mario games. Game It Junior was actually creating a beginning game, and we had an expert presenter from STEM Fuse come and do that. A lot of these people would love to get out and introduce students to this kind of activity because they're looking for students that can work for them when they graduate. We had the 3D printer session, and those are the kinds of items that students use when they're creating the world. They have to know how a tree would look, and they can create them in this Tinkercad program. And then, of course, they got to print them out, which it adds a little extra. We had a discovery station that had iPad apps, and they actually created an iPad game. There are coding apps also that they went to, as you have to tell the computer characters what to do in the game. You have to tell the game how to switch from level to level and when to switch. We had a station using Scratch. Scratch is a free download, and the information is right here. And that download, students also program, and they can create games in that. The Raspberry Pi was just the world's cheapest computer, and we had a couple of those to look at. This was our makerspace, where students could go and just collaborate if they wanted some more time in a program they'd used. We had an Alice station, and Alice is a 3D animation program, so that you're actually, the animations, the 3D items are already made, the props and the characters, and then you learn how to program them and tell them what to do. And that's what you have to do in a game. Then the last station was our sound station. Students used noisemakers. They went to the Sounds Abound site through Keystone and gathered up sounds. They recorded from their sound makers in Vukaroo, and then they actually used a free download called Audacity, which has tracks. And so they could have background music, put in sound effects, and that's an item that's important in gaming. We then had a presentation by an app creation team from Design Mill, lunch, and then they went to the discovery stations 2 more times, and then we wrapped up the day. I'm also going to show you, I have a link to the STEM Day presentation, and you're welcome again to use this. Please just make a copy. And I was just going to go, we showed the classic video from Big Bang Theory about rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. You might want to use that one. It really works. This was the Infinity video trailer that we had them look at, and then they were able to discover all the elements of game. And you're welcome to use this too. So that's pretty much it. You want to make sure you have a purpose, know who your STEMers are, choose a theme, then create those student-centered activities. Make sure you get exit surveys of some kind, and then you might want to plan a follow-up day. And I'll just give you a little bit of information on that. Our follow-up day, because our exit surveys showed that so many students were interested in the career piece, we are actually going to we've invited people in those careers to come in, and then we're finding activities, and we're branching out a little bit with this. If we believe we have an electrical engineer, we're going to talk about that piece of how engineering in general is important to game making, and we're going to do some things with electricity, hands-on. We're also going to continue with a gaming theme and have activities planned that way. So hope you get interested. You'd like to host a STEM day, and if you'd like some more information or support, please contact me. You can use my email or phone number. If I don't answer, just leave me a message and I will certainly get back to you. And thanks again for your patience and watching this screencast today. Thanks again.